I think people build in a backdoor. They build in a failsafe. It didn't work because of this. How do we bottle that and give it to people that are listening to tell them, burn the boats?
Welcome to the Let Me Save You 25 Years podcast. I am your host, Shawn David Nelson, founder and CEO of Lovesack, sometimes known as that Lovesack guy. Thank you for being a listener. This week's episode is amazing. Goes a little long because the conversation is just so good. I'm not very good at a lot of things. I'm sort of good at a lot of things, but I'm not like really good at anything except for maybe starting stuff, which you could argue is not a good trait, unless you can finish them. But I don't know. When I look around, I wish I was insanely talented, but if I was good at anything, it's like, just get started, whatever it is, the garage project, this project, that project, the basement, the little stuff in our lives that just weigh on us. I've always had the ability to just like get going, where I see, other people really get hung up on these things that just never get addressed for years and years and years. Thankfully, that trait is translated into a business that's now worth a lot of money and employs 2,000 people. Honestly, that's what I credit it to. Because even today in Lovesack's phase of growth or whatever, there's still always something to be started. There's still a new product, new project, new idea, so while I don't have a lot of skills and abilities, that's something that I guess I feel like I have to offer. And it's what we unpack today with an amazing guest. One of the most incredible long-running NHL players in all of history. We're going to talk about conviction and curiosity, the importance of pairing curiosity with conviction with whatever you're doing. And it's like those two C's, that's it. Conviction and curiosity. How a huge part of success is actually having conviction in what you want to do. So it sounds crazy, right? But again, not just an NHL player, now an entrepreneur. We get into how so much of success is failure. Think about that, right? The difference between the most successful people and not can sometimes just be a few wins where most of their career is failure. Whether it's sports or business or life, you just got to put in the reps. We talk about how contenders work until they get it right, but champions practice until they can't get it wrong. That's the difference. There's no life without struggle or hardship, and no one gets a free pass. Just be the best at getting better. And finally, Brooks Laich nails down the exact reason why I'm doing this show. He sums it up perfectly. This conversation is one for the books with NHL superstar Brooks Laich. Today's guest is what happens when grit, discipline, adventure, and purpose all collide. 15 years in the NHL, over 750 games played, more than 130 goals scored, an elite athlete, entrepreneur, wellness warrior, global philanthropist. He's been a top-level pro athlete and is now running World Playground, one of the top travel sites in the world. So let's welcome the athlete, entrepreneur, adventurer, and reinvention expert, Mr. Brooks Laich.
Wow, Shawn, that was an intro. I also love that out of everything you said, you led with grit. Why was grit the first word? Because I have such an appreciation for that word, but why was that the first word in your intro?
My interpretation of your career, I hope I'm not overstepping, but there are, the Lionel Messis of the world who are just somehow out of the womb with talent that dominate a sport. And then there are those who have to put in the work and become great, but for that. And I perceive you as one of those.
Wow. I take that with a tremendous amount of respect and for me, that's a very big compliment. I think as an athlete, when somebody calls you gritty, or as an entrepreneur, or just in general life, resilience, grittiness are intangible assets that are very difficult to measure. But for me, I receive that very well as a compliment. So thank you, my friend. We're now new best friends.
There
Call me
you
once a
go.
day and tell me.
Well, I can follow you around and intro you in every room you enter.
Yeah.
Actually, if you ask Duckworth, she's this author who wrote this book called Grit. Have you seen this? Identifies it as the number one trait ultimately for people having success. So it is a high compliment and one that you embody. Look, when you heard our Shawnism for the day, the art of the start, what's the first thing that came to mind for you?
Two things. I think about when I was 13. When I was at the age of 13, I made the conscious decision to become a professional hockey player. So for any of your community members that don't know me, Shawn mentioned in the intro, but I was a professional hockey player for 15 years. That conscious decision was at the age of 13. Up until that age, I loved hockey, said I was going to be an NHL player. That's what I was going to do with my life. But there was a very significant inflection point in my life, and that was at the age of 13, where now this road to becoming a professional started. Now, fast forward 30 years later, I'm through what we athletes call first retirement. I've retired from professional hockey, and now I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm starting a new business. And as I'm starting the new business, we're 3 months into the launch of our brand new travel website. I have reflected so much upon my start to become a professional athlete and applied a lot of those same characteristics, behaviors, thought process, application to my current life. And I think the starting blocks are more of the hang up for people in life than any other area. I think the starting blocks, 60 to 70% of people probably never get out of them. And if we can somehow reach members of your community today that are in somewhat of a similar boat, are looking to start or have just started or are going through it and aren't finding success, if we can help them persist to keep going, then it's a very impactful conversation. So the art of the start is something that resonates deeply with me. I want people to pursue their dreams. I want them to chase life with everything they have. And if they just need a little wind at their back to get out of the starting blocks, that's what I'm here for today.
Look, it's rare to sit down with an elite level pro athlete, try and understand that, because the odds are so against you, right? Like, of the thousands of kids you came up playing against and playing with, from who knows what age, but the age of 13, when you started, as you said, your vision to becoming a pro athlete, you can just imagine all the kids you played with that wish they could have done what you did. How would you help those of us who will never get that opportunity to understand what it took, what it takes, what separates a pro, and not even just a pro, but a pro that can stick it out for 15 years from the rest?
Ooh, that is a great question. So the first thing that comes to mind, I didn't know this stat. Obviously, I didn't know this stat when I was a kid, but I learned it many, many years later. I believe there's a stat that 0.0001% of all hockey players ever get paid a single cent to play the game. Like globally, right? So 0.0001. So wow. Your chances are astronomical of ever making a cent playing the game. I didn't know those stats, but even so, those stats I wouldn't have cared. The thing that I keep coming back to is conviction in what you want to do. For me, I was a small town kid. I grew up in a community of 600 people in rural Saskatchewan. 600 people. That was our entire town. We had no facilities or amenities. How was I going to become a professional athlete? We had no coaches. We had no development staff. We had a rink, and I had a passion. And that for me was the entire start. And I fell in love with the game of hockey, I was very grateful to have a father and a mother who were very invested in it. My dad coached me. He taught me everything I knew about hockey until I moved away from home to pursue it. But what I had ultimately in spades and what was undying and unrelenting was a conviction to become a professional athlete. And if that's anybody else out there right now, it doesn't have to be a professional athlete, but whatever it is, if you're starting a business, the conviction to it, the purpose and reason and how much it matters to you, because you're going to go longer hours than anybody else. You're going to go further than people think is reasonable. It's going to demand more of you than you could even comprehend. But then the other thing I think about is, how do you sustain that? And we had a saying, Shawn, in elite professional sports, you have a saying where champions work until they can't, or contenders work until they get it right, and champions work until they can't get it wrong. And the pursuit and artistry and mastery of a craft is so wonderful. And I think the more you get into your craft, whatever your craft might be, mine was hockey. It could be sewing. It could be piano. It could be singing. It could be whatever you're painting, whatever your craft is. The pursuit of being an artist in your craft. And the deeper you get into your craft, people will say you're a master of it. But the deeper you get into it, the deeper understanding you get of it. And you realize you are not a master. There are so many more levels to this thing that it's a self-feeding cycle where you're like, wow, I've discovered this much. I played hockey for 30 years.
Yeah.
I developed things over 3 decades, tools in my body and abilities to apply to this craft. Yet 30 years in, I would say I'm further from a master than I would have when I was 20 years or 10 years in, just because I learned more about the craft. So the curiosity of the craft just leads to the longevity of it.
This is great. So, I mean, two C words right out of the gate: conviction and curiosity. Right. So, tell me more about that. You know, as a 13-year-old, you said that's where you decided, I guess, or somehow you realized. Tell me more about how that conviction showed up in your life and how that manifested.
So I was 13 years old. I knew I wanted to be an NHL player. Every Canadian kid wants to be an NHL player. Okay. So that's not new. When the Canadian parent hears that from their son or daughter, it's great. It's par for the course. But I said I wanted to be. At the age of 13, I decided I was going to be. And I made a conscious decision that everything from the age of 13 on, now does every decision in the course of my day, does this make me better or worse at the sport of hockey? And I need to become better. We had no amenities or we didn't have a gym in town. I talked to our school teacher and I borrowed hurdles from our school teacher. I borrowed 10 hurdles from our school so that I could jump hurdles in my backyard every day after school to work on my bounding, my plyometrics, work on my leg power and explosiveness, because I needed to become a faster skater. So I'd come home, age of 13, I did this. My parents didn't make me do this. This was my own design. I would come home from school, had 10 hurdles lined up. I'd go through it. So 10 hops, boom, 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 come back to the starting line, do that 9 more times. So I'd go through it 10 hurdles, 10 times. That was 100 jumps. I'd rest for 3 minutes and I would do that twice more. And that was every day. I jumped 300 hurdles every day after school. Then I'd go down to our basement. I bought a set of weights out of the newspaper, because at that time there wasn't online shopping. We just out of the newspaper. I had a set of weights that I bought out of the newspaper for $60. And then I had a local farmer, weld me a little rack that I could put a barbell on with some weights so that I could squat. So I didn't know how I was going to get to the NHL. Just like when you you sewed together your first love sack, you didn't know how you were going to get it to everybody or to an IPO, to the company that it's going to be today. But you had the conviction. You're like, I don't need to know how. I need to believe that it's possible. And I will figure, with the conviction that I have, I will figure it out. So that's all. At the age of 13, that was it for me. I believed it was possible. I believed it was worth it. And then I had the conviction to just apply myself day in, day out to figure it out.
And if I may, in spirit of today's episode, you got started. You didn't you didn't wait around thinking about it, and I think that to your point, you take that for granted almost, because it's in you, and perhaps it's in me too. I'm just a doer, and it's a problem, like I end up starting a lot of things and getting, we'll get into that later. It can be a problem, but it strikes me that people who are starters and understand this art of the start often don't even understand it. They just have it naturally built into them. Like for you to go out at 13 and chase down hurdles and build your own squat rack, that's like not normal. But to you, it probably just felt normal because it's just kind of like what you did. And if that's not naturally your proclivity, for those listening, then you got to find it, because I find that a common thread amongst people who have great success.
Interesting. When I reflect on that now, and I reflect on our start with World Playground with what we're doing now, is I never had a single thought, Shawn, at that time of, is this going to work out? Is it not? What is somebody going to say to me? And I would love to, I wish I could, somebody listening to this that has pause or hesitation in this right now, I would love to have a conversation with them. I'm like, what is pausing you? What is making that hesitation? I've done this with people in my own close circle. They're like, I have this idea. I want to do this. I'm like, what's the biggest problem? They'll say something. I'm like, let's fix it right now. Let's solve that right now. Go ahead at something. My dad used to say, I give my dad credit to this. He goes, run towards the fire. My dad was a principal. He was an educator. And he said the first thing he did every day at work is he'd go to the first 3 things that he knew he didn't want to do, because he could feel he didn't want to do them. Call this parent about their child, do this, whatever. But he goes, these are the most important things to being a good educator and a good principal. I need to do these 3 things. So he always said he ran towards the fire. For anybody listening, I wish I could have a conversation with you. I would rather pursue wildly and fail. And that's fine. At least I lived. When I retired from pro sports, Shawn, I realized how much of an emotional pendulum I had lived on. Massive, amazing win, frustrating, anger, loss, but just that pendulum, it made me feel alive. And sometimes I reference this example to people. To be the best face-off man in the world, you win 55% of your face-offs. That means you win 11 out of 20. You are one better than 50-50, and you are the best in the world at it.
Wow.
So much of success is just failure, but it comes from attempting. And you want to compete against the people that are better than you. If you're starting a business, you want to compete against those who are ahead of you. It's going to pull you up. So I go back to, the 2 C words is interesting. I had never summarized them as C words, but conviction and curiosity. Just be curious about this thing that you love and just try and learn more and become better at it every single day. And don't worry about measuring. Just become better. Just improve every day at this thing that you are curious about.
So I'm curious listening to that, because I agree. And when you said, you're whatever, 25, 30 years in, you felt like you were somehow even less knowledgeable of that craft than you were in the beginning, because the deeper you got, the more you realized how deep it went, whether we're talking about physicality, whether we're talking about the mental game, right? Like, I agree. It's like the older it's funny. I reflect on how I felt as a young entrepreneur in my teens, or even like in my 20s. I felt like I knew more about business then than I do now, because I don't know. That's just like your mindset then. And you also don't know what you don't know. So the little bit that you do know feels like a full cup, perhaps. But now, which I'm curious, because you've thrown yourself at business. You've got this amazing travel site up and running. You've got great ambitions to now compete in the world of business, and in a very competitive space, travel. Which discipline is more complex? That of hockey, as you described, or this new one that you're hurdling yourself at?
I don't know which one's more complex. Both take team. So it's only possible I have a role in it, but both take team. Obviously, being a team sport, but playing hockey takes team. Same with building a website that makes travel more affordable for everybody in the world. That's a whole different set of skills that takes team as well. What I love about them both, so I don't know which one I could classify as more complex. What I love about them both is, for me, it's a pursuit to be best in the world. So my pursuit in the NHL wasn't so much for me to be the best player in the world. It was for us to be the best team in the world, to win the championship. That was my pursuit there. And now with what we're doing with World Playground is to be the best travel booking platform in the entire world, to make the world as affordable and available to everybody. And we are going, make no mistake about it. And I've told our employees, the people in our community, our staff, I said, we are making a run to be the best travel booking platform in the entire world. We are so far from it. Shawn, disclaimer, we are so far from it. But this is me at the age of 13 saying we're going to the NHL, and I don't know how we're going to get there, but the conviction is to be there. And 7 years later, I was. So same thing here. I love the pursuit of competing with and against the best in the world. There's a whole mountain of things that we need to learn to be a better booking platform. I switched industries. I spent 30 years of my life applying it to hockey. I have a world of knowledge there. Now I switched to travel. Oh boy, I like to travel. I like to experience fun things. But what about travel insurance? What about booking capabilities? What about GDS? What about PCI DSS compliance? What about all of these things with running a travel site that we have no idea about? I didn't know. And running a business too, finances, like we're now raising capital. What does that look like? So it's fun for anybody doing something like this, I think, also be a learner while you're a doer, right? Like I go to what I call alternative education. I love your podcast. Let me save you 25 years. Cause my dad was a principal. He wanted me to go to school even till I was 30. He's like, can you go to business school in the summer? I'm like, no, I'm going to go fish it. I'm going to work out and go fish it. Sorry, Dad.
I'm doing okay, Dad.
Yeah. But he wasn't wrong. And then when I retired from sport, I was like, oh, I just have my grade 12, but I want to go into business now. Let me find the smartest people that have been in business for the last 40 years and pull the best lessons from them. Let me save you 25 years, right? Which is what your mission is. And so that's what I did with business, and that's what I'm applying now. It's hard to answer which one is more difficult. I really don't know how to answer that question. I just love the pursuit of being the best, trying to be the best in the world at something. We may make it, we may not, but we're damn well going to give it a shot.
I love it. I love how you characterize that, your experience with hockey, something that I'm sure to many listeners on its face seems pretty straightforward, get super strong, get skilled with the, with the stick, with the puck, you know what I mean? All the things. But, the deeper you got into it, the more depth you found in it. And, there you were 3 decades later feeling like, even the less you knew about it, even though you were a master of it. Right. And here I am now 3 decades, call it, into business, feeling the same way you feel. I think there's something to that. I don't know if it's just age. I don't know if we just, lose our youthful exuberance and I guess, unbrandished confidence, but, there's something to that. And remaining curious, and the further I get, where my ambitions for Lovesack are like yours, they're way further than appropriate, right? Like our goal, our stated mission is to build the most loved brand in America, which is a hard thing to do when you're a furniture company, because brands don't come out of furniture. And look, we have our point of view on how we're going to get it there, but it's a very ambitious goal. And if we achieve it, it'll generate billions, and a lot's assumed in that goal. And I'm sure it sounds ridiculous to people on the outside, but that is our ambition nonetheless. We have the conviction. I have the conviction, and I will go as long as it takes. But in the craft of building a business, all these silly books behind me, I've read them all, and I still feel like each one I read just makes me feel dumber. Here I am 30 years in feeling like, because the thing about business is so interesting, as you just sort of articulated in your rant, it's so multifaceted. It's so much more multifaceted than people think it is. Just finance, pick any one of the disciplines, accounting, which is not the same as finance, operations. And okay, now are we talking retail operations in my case, or are we talking back-end logistics? Are we talking internal processes, running a company that has, I don't know, 400 corporate employees, another 2,000 and, almost 2,000 if you include the stores, which operations are we talking about? And each one of those is a discipline, and each one of those has a captain. You talk about a team, and I get to be some kind of a leader, and then we get into just leadership. There have been tomes on tomes written just on that topic, right? And so here I am pushing 50, feeling more like a pygmy, more like I barely have scratched the surface than I ever have. And I think all I can say is it must be normal, because it sounds like that's how you felt toward the end of your hockey career.
I think I can explain why. So I'm curious to run this theory by you. You would apply it. I'd like you to apply it in your journey as an entrepreneur and as a founder. This is what I learned in my journey. And I want to share this with anybody listening, looking to start, to become one day an expert. You might know somebody that's like, wow, they're so good at this. How do I become that? So professional athletes, I also liken this to SWAT team members, Navy, like SEAL Team 6 guys, anybody that is an expert in the thing that you like. They are not superheroes. They are not ninjas. They are not ungodly blessed in some manner. Over time, they have mastered a set of individual skills that they're able to then stack on top of each other to do simultaneously, that makes them look like a master. And I can break that down a little bit. Hockey players, you must skate. You need to be able to skate. Then you need to be able to control a puck with a stick. So you need to be able to stick handle. Then you need to be able to do those two things together. Then you need to be able to look around and see where your teammates are and who's moving where, and understand where they're moving. You need to understand where the open space is. You need to understand your teammates. What type of player are they? What is the defense that we're playing against? What is the situation? What is the score on the scoreboard? What is the time? What is the situation? What is the tendency of this player that's defending me? So professional athletes are able to stack a series of individual skills that they have mastered, that then they can put them together simultaneously, that makes them look exceptional at their craft. And the more of these skills that you understand, the more skills you uncover where they're like, oh, I could now layer this on. I could now layer this on. I could open my blade this way and fake and use my eyes going this way. Meanwhile, I'm looking this way, just to like move people where I want them to go, to open up an opportunity for me. And it's the same with like SEAL Team 6 guys. Like I've got to know a few guys that are high level, capable people like that. And I've learned that I'm like, how do you guys become such badasses? And they're like, we just master the fundamentals. And then we stack 40 fundamentals on top of each other at the same time, which we are executing at a high level everywhere we go. Does that check out for you as a founder, CEO in business? Have you mastered it? Because I'm learning a lot of new skills as a founder and CEO now. And I'm like, okay, each week we're stacking new sets of skills and abilities, but there's so much more I have to grow. I'm way behind you in business. You've been in business much longer than I have. Does that check out for you as a leader in your business?
I think that's really well explained, and I appreciate you doing that. And I think my hope is that people can hear that, understand it, accept it, and still be willing to start, because it's sometimes the intimidation of the heft of what you just described that can also arrest people.
Yeah.
Stop them from moving forward. Cause it just seems like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm 30 or I'm 40 or I'm 50 or I'm 18. I'm too young or I'm too old. And that sounds hard. And the spirit of today's Shawnism, just start anyway. Because what's amazing is if you just go jump over a bunch of hurdles, start squatting, start skating. In my case, you know, I turned off the TV. I had the idea. I turned off the TV, drove down to the fabric store, bought the fabric, brought it home, cut it out, started sewing it up. My mom's sewing machine jammed. Okay, the neighbor lady finished sewing it. And it's like, it didn't stop me. And that's where I'm so grateful for that youthful exuberance, that naivety, you know, where it's like, I can do this. And here I am, as we talked about 30 years into it, feeling still like I've got more to learn than ever. It's that embrace the naivety. Everyone listening out there has a naivety to what, you know, you can imagine into the future. Don't let that stop you. Embrace it. It's that dumbness that's going to allow you to move forward and not be overwhelmed by all of the layers that are to come. Simultaneously, accept the opportunity that all these things will be stacked upon you if you're willing to just keep doing the next thing. That's why in my book, so in these, for what it's worth, 25 Shawnisms that I share in my book, the first one is just do something. That is the art of the start. Just do something. Do anything. Stop talking about it. Stop thinking about it. Just go do something. And the second one, like unto it, just do the next thing. And so here you are learning about all these regulations, learning about all these, you know, now complex business matters, whatever. And the way, I guarantee you, the way you're learning it is by just doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing after that. And you wake up, in my case, 25 years in and beyond, not only as some kind of, I guess, business expert, you have some leadership chops, you have chops across many different disciplines. I also know a ton about fabric, more than I ever thought I would. I mean, like, to the yarn, you know, level. I understand fabric. Like, who would have ever thought that? And where did that come from? It came from just doing the next thing. And so both are true. It is both highly complex, deep, wide, multi-layered, multifaceted, and pretty simple if you let it be.
Yes. Yeah, I love that too, because I don't want people to get lost that I have to learn 40 skills and become a master. Just this week, right? Like, just focus on whatever the most primary thing. If you're looking to start, if you're listening to this and you're looking to start, if you want to be a creator, be on Instagram Live every single day. Be in front of people, whatever it is. I remember hearing a thing about Jerry Seinfeld once did 276 shows consecutively. He said he got a calendar, and every day that he did a show, he put an X. And then he got a streak going, and he's like, I'll do anything to not break that streak on the calendar. He went 276 shows to apply his craft. He didn't care if it was one person, 10 people, 1,000 people. And in that, he just went asymmetric in his performance. Right, just because he learned, he just had reps. In sports, we call it reps, touches or reps. Just repeat the same thing. Do it as many times as possible, knowing that the result isn't going to be what you want. The audience isn't going to be what you want. The auditorium or venue that you're in right now is not yet it. But you're not doing it for that reason. You're doing it to become a master at this craft that you so wildly desire. And that for me was a fun part of sports. Sports, everybody thinks sports are measured in wins and losses. Wins and losses are feedback for practice. Our whole focus is practice. Wins and losses the night before, coach will come in and say, this is great. We lost 4-1. Yeah, we're not happy that we lost, but we found out we can't break out defensively. We're giving up too many slot coverages. We aren't helping on faceoff. This is great. We're going to apply these in practice tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're a better team. So thank you for the public feedback from a win or a loss. And so for people that think that they're measured by wins or losses, that is purely feedback. If you truly accept the mindset that you are just looking to improve. And I tell parents this all the time. Parents say, my kid's not the best on the team. I'm like, I don't care. Have your kid be the best at getting better. That is my advice to if you're a parent out there listening, if you're a founder or a startup, somebody, whatever, my advice to you is be the best at getting better. I wasn't always the best player on my team, but I ascended through the levels because each year I would say I would have been rewarded the most improved player, and ultimately applied over enough time that led to me being in the NHL for 15 years. Even when you're in the NHL, then there's 20% turnover every year. So 1 out of 5 guys is gone. The average NHL career is 5 years. I ended up making it 15. I feel pretty fortunate, but because every year I was still improving. So if you're starting, just exactly what you said, just start, master simple skills first, and over time, stack them on top of each other.
I love it. And I would add, go where the river takes you. In your case, like you said, that 0.001 opportunity found you. You found that little channel between the rocks and the branches to keep sailing down that NHL river. Just as easily, it could have, lots of different forces could have collaborated to have you not make it down a different path. And the best part is your preparation, the things you learned through that preparation would have allowed you to have the same successes that you're now experiencing today in business or some other realm, because discipline is valuable regardless. Physical skills, are valuable regardless. The mental skills that came from all of that are valuable regardless. And I think embrace the luck of it, right? That would be my advice to people, because, and by that, I mean, with that comes the luck. Luck is a neutral word. Embrace the good luck, embrace the bad luck, right? Like, had you not made the NHL, you still would have emerged with all of those physical, mental, even spiritual skills that you garnered through all that preparation. And it would have taken you down a different path. And don't second guess it, because, each one of our paths will be different, but the work itself was valuable.
I think, characteristics. So I think what you're talking about is characteristics. They'll come with you. If somebody's in an industry change, like as athletes, we know we're going to go through what we call first retirement. You're retired, like you're retiring. The game, either you're going to retire or the game's going to bypass you and it's going to retire you. So know that retirement is coming fast for athletes. We have a shelf life. So we go through first retirement. Now, when I was 35 and I retired, I'm like, I refuse to believe that my best days in life, my biggest impact on the world, is behind me. I refuse to believe that. Now, it took me a few years to figure out what I wanted to do, ultimately landed on World Playground. And that's now my impact and my pursuit. But Shawn, if you chose to, pivot industries now from, I know you're going to be involved with Lovesac the rest of your life. I know the mission you guys have. Like you said, if it costs you the rest of your mortal days, you're going to push for this vision and this conviction you have for this product. But if you were to switch, right? Sometimes switches are forced upon us like they are for athletes. If you were to switch, all of the characteristics, all of the test and metal that you've built over the years of building this, all of that comes even to a completely new lane or industry. And you can fall back on these learned behaviors. Like, I know how to apply, I know discipline, I know team building, I know leadership, I know discover, I can create, I can problem solve, I can identify problems, attack the most important ones first. I have network, you bring everything with you. So again, I don't want people to get paralyzed in the starting blocks. Even if you're switching jobs, maybe you just lost a job. I have friends in my life that are specialists in one area and they're looking to pivot in something else because they're like, I'm successful here, but it isn't fulfilling. But man, this would be wildly fulfilling. Everything you do in that lane transfers to this one. Now it is just time and application.
Yeah, well said. And look, in my case, I'm no different. Like, I love what you said about competition. Embrace the competition, embrace the reality of your scenario. I'm a public company CEO. If I have a bad year or two, I could be fired from my own company that I created because of, the construct that I don't know, hurtled myself into in this case. So how does that affect me, you might ask? It does and it doesn't. In the one case, it makes me always stay sharp and want to live up to that, competition, call it that challenge. On the other hand, and this is not advice, I'm just sharing it with those listening, I purposely do not have a safety net. Deep down, I know that my safety net is what you just articulated, right? I'm capable. I've learned across many disciplines. I know I could apply this in other realms. I never allow myself to think about that ever, because I've made the decision. I'm trying to build a Nike. I'm trying to go as long as I'm allowed to. In my case, if that takes another few decades, I'll go that. And that's freeing to be able to think that way. It also saves me from ever having to waste time, wondering, well, what would I do next? And am I making the right moves to like protect my downside? I just don't go there. And again, I'm not offering this advice. I'm just giving you a peek into how I think. That I'm all in on this. I'm focused on it. And for me, I've found that to be very freeing. But deep down, I know that I am always building these skills and abilities that could be applied in other ways if I were forced to.
Can I pause right here and can we unpack this a little bit more?
Yeah.
Because I agree absolutely. Every single day, I went out the door to become a better hockey player and came in the door to a better hockey player. And every decision in the course of a day, does this make me better or worse at my sport? My fiance is the same way. She's a 2-time world champ, fittest woman in the world. She won the CrossFit Games twice. Every single decision in the course of her day, my day, was, does this make us better or does this make us worse? I need to rest. I need to eat. I need to sleep. I need to XYZ. There's a big cost to that, right? You have to sacrifice a lot to that, but it also can bring greatness. You said you have no lifeline. You essentially, we say, burn the boats, right? How can we bottle that? Because I live the same way. How can we bottle that and give it to somebody else who's I think people build in a backdoor. They build in a failsafe. It didn't work because of this. How do we bottle that and give it to people that are listening to tell them, burn the boats? Because it is risky advice. And that's why you say, I don't want to give it as advice, but it works too. It worked for you. It worked for me. It worked for my fiance. But I also believe that like when you throw absolute conviction behind something, and I mean pure, utter, absolute conviction and commitment, the universe conspires in a way to support you and put a wind at your back. How do we bottle that and give that to people so that they believe it too is possible? Because they can look at you and see, yeah, it worked out for you. But how do we make them believe that in order to start?
I don't know. But I mean, that's the spirit of the podcast, right? And that's why I appreciate you calling it out. And it's so cool to hear it reflected back from you. Maybe that's the key. Maybe I should just stop apologizing and just give it as advice. Burn the boats, don't have a safety net. It just sounds so risky, and I understand it. But if I'm being honest, that's my attitude. It's been my attitude. It's been my attitude from the beginning. When I finally, in the earliest days of Lovesac, in fairness, I was putting on suits and interviewing for jobs my senior year of college while I remember taking off my suit to come back and build some tables at our factory. It was happening simultaneously. In other words, I had not made the decision to make Lovesac my profession. It was just this dumb beanbag thing it was like this pesky thing that kept sucking me in. And then we got this big order and I had to build this factory. Meanwhile, I'm taking interviews to go take real jobs because I had gotten my degree, and it's I had these big, sexy jobs that sounded cool internationally, whatever. And so when I finally did make the decision, to put away the suit and just go do this, of course, one thing led to another, and you can read the book and it's a great story, but there is tremendous power and conviction. And I learned that young enough to continue to apply it today. And now all these years later, that's my point of view. So, okay, maybe I don't know how to bottle it up to answer your question other than to just share it. And it is refreshing to hear it reflected back by you. There's great power and conviction. And by the way, this notion of manifesting, as they say, or the secret, these things, call it what you want. this is a recurring pattern on pretty much every conversation I have on this podcast. So at some point, if you're out there listening, you got to stop doubting it, start putting it out in the world. My caution would be, it's not always what you thought. That's what I'm saying about the river analogy. Sometimes you also have to go where the river takes you. So your conviction is valuable, even if the river ends up taking you on a different path than exactly what you imagined. Lovesack is already on a different path than what I like. If I go back and read my first business plan, the business has evolved and changed dramatically from what I originally thought. I never even had couches never crossed my mind. Now couches are 90% of my sales. And I think other things are in our future that I don't even necessarily know. But what I do know is that conviction has brought me this far.
Yeah. For anybody listening to, I think of, I want to share this quick story. Like when I was 16, I had Division I scholarships sitting on the table. And I mentioned my dad was an educator. He was a principal. He's like, Brooks, you have a free university. Like pick any one of these schools. And I said, no, I want to go play pro. I want to play. You don't win a Stanley Cup in college. He goes, what if you hurt your knee? I rehab it. I go pro. That was my conviction. And I had full scholarships on the table. So whoever's listening to this, you did it. You somehow broke through. You bet on yourself. Whoever's listening to this, what is that moment for you right now? Right? What is that moment for you? My dad said I could have went the safe route. This is easy. This is a safe route. And I said, no, I want to go do it. And then further to what you were saying of like, you just went all in on something. I think the word commitment gets thrown out a lot, but isn't explored to the depth of what it needs to be. Like for those that are looking to make this decision to follow in your path, and like I love what you're doing to try to push, you're trying to put a wind at people's back and like get them going and help them in shortcut in any manner you can. The beauty of it is like you've got to run through the fire yourself. Like you need to start and then be wildly curious and wildly convicted and pursue it with everything out and learn along the way. Learning is your master. Like learning is your superpower along the way. Even the best leaders, like you do these podcasts, I'm sure, because you learn a lot on them as well as sharing a lot. You love to educate, but you love to also learn. Like I tell my fiance every day, I'm in alternative education every single day. Like we're using Claude Cowork to do our whole business. Like we're using a lot of AI to run our business, which is, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in AI university every single day. I'm fundraising. I'm in fundraising university every single day. I'm speaking to other people who have been way more successful at business like yourself and trying to pull every little ounce I can from them. So learning about what you're doing every single place you go. I just love the journey. You love it too. I love the battle. I love the fight. I could have retired from sport, fished and golfed the rest of my life, but I'm like, no, I love the fight. I love the fight for the fight's sake. I love being in the ring. I love trying to do something. And what World Playground does now is it makes the world more affordable for everybody. Other booking platforms shrink the world. They charge too much in fees and commissions and everything. And we removed all that to make the world more affordable for everybody. I love that new fight. You know, you want to make Lovesack the most lovable company in America and in the world. You're in it for the fight. You don't need to. You don't need to be here. Why are you still going? You don't need to be here. You could sell and just like do it. You love the fight too. There's something about it that you love.
Yeah. I love that. And we have a lot in common that way. I encourage people to just embrace that point of view. I don't believe in retirement. Like, you know, I mean, like you said, you had to retire from sport, or sport would have retired you.
Sport retired me.
But you didn't retire from life. You know, retirement is a fake notion. It was created in Middle Ages Germany because the upper class that was aging out was clinging on to power, and their sons wanted the chance to lead. And they found a way through their, administrative system to create this mandatory retirement age at 65, just so they could get a chance to hold the reins because their dads weren't letting it go. Right. But that's not a real thing. And now we have a whole construct in society built on it. I'm not saying, look, you get to shape your own life. But when I abandoned the notion of retirement, when I abandoned the notion of what's the next thing, and it's just like, I'm going to do this for as long as it takes to achieve a goal that's outrageous, it was very freeing. And I encourage people to do that. Burn the boats. I think that it's not to say that it's never crossed my mind, like, well, what if something was forced upon me? What if something went terribly south? What if, and those moments come, but I never entertain them for very long. I never go very far down that path. I don't ever go as far as creating like a plan B or like a safety net, because I believe that your subconscious, if you have this goal to become, like you said, the best hockey player, and does everything I do make me better or worse than that? It's not just, you doing another 300 hurdles today that gets you there. It is your subconscious then that's been directed to go achieve this goal, helping you achieve it while you sleep, helping you achieve it in the seams and cracks of life, because it's your subconscious is perhaps more powerful than your conscious mind. This has been proven time and time again. What's my point? When you give your subconscious a safety net, a plan B, you have now bifurcated its efforts. And when that doesn't exist, you now have your conscious and your subconscious always working toward, in my case, making Lovesac the most loved brand, inspiring humankind to buy better stuff so they can buy less. And it's, and you got all the forces working in that direction. Somewhere in the back of my mind, do I know that I have skills and abilities that I'm sure I could apply in other ways? Yes. Okay. Check. Done. Move on. Back to the focus. And there is no plan B. There is no safety net.
I very, very much resonate with what you're saying. And I hope your listeners like even go back a minute and a half and listen to that. There's two things that come to mind as I hear you say that. One is obsession and two is pull. And I'll unpack them really quick. I think all people that elevate to a remarkable level of success or become an expert or a professional or XYZ have an obsession with the thing that they're doing. Not just a passion. A passion is one thing, an obsession. And that obsession can be conscious, and then it transfers to your unconscious or your subconscious. And the other thing I think about is that subconscious is a pull. The other thing I said was pull. I think a pull is the greatest, it is the strongest force in the universe. Gravity is a pull. Love is a pull. You never have to push to go do those things. You have kids. We're talking about you have kids. I have a daughter. She is a pull to me. I never have to push to be a good dad. I'm just pulled because out of love and just I'm pulled. And I felt that way about playing hockey. I could wake up in the morning after a rough, physical, tough game, traveling, whatever, tired, and my neck and shoulder and knee and everything are hurt. And I felt like hockey, the rink just pulled me like this to out of bed. And every single day of my life, I just felt like the game pulled me towards it. And that's how I knew I was in the right place. I never had to push to go to it. And that's why you're not retiring, probably, because that's why you want to stay involved with this thing as long as you can, because you are just pulled and drawn toward it. Same with our families. And then find the thing that you obsess about and that you're pulled towards, and then lean into it. And I know this is the art of the start, but that is like, if you're looking for that thing, maybe people haven't found the thing that they're looking for. I didn't know I wanted to start World Playground. I was a professional athlete. Then what? I ran a fitness training app. I ran a podcast, had a podcast for iHeartMedia. And I was like, I don't want to do these things the rest of my life. What if I had all the money in the world? What would I do with my day? And I was like, I would grab all of my friends and I would go travel. And so you talked about river. I just started following that river. It's like, okay, well, let me jump in this current. And I loved adventure. I loved making incredible memories and seeing different parts of the world. And I had spent my whole life on team sports. So I loved the power of the collective. And that's how we built World Playground initially in 2020 as an adventure community. And now it's evolved to what it is today with we still do that, but we also have now a booking website that brings the world back within reach and makes it affordable for every family and traveler out there. But those two things, for anybody looking to start, what is your obsession and what is pulling you to it, even though you are not making a single cent from it, and you might not for another 7 years, but you know you are drawn to this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Following those, just personal instincts is super important, and not always judging them. And here's where I'm getting at. Okay. So you identified travel. That's, okay, that could go lots of directions, right? You could take your podcast experience and go be some kind of travel blogger, vlogger, influencer. You're great friends with the G family, who I love, the Bucket List family.
Yeah.
They're doing it that way. That's their version of travel. Now, by the way, they're throwing themselves at these new island properties, doing what they're doing, right? Travel could have manifested many different ways for you in terms of business and pursuit. You might not have known at that beginning moment where the river was pulling you and where it ultimately would pull you to manifest into this website, right? But the point is, you followed that notion of travel. The problem is people sometimes refuse to start because they can't see the end at the beginning. And they need to know before they can start, where it's like you threw yourself into the river to some degree and let it take you. And now it's manifesting in the form of World Playground. And there were lots of turns that probably led you to that, but you probably couldn't have known that when you first felt that pull, as you described it, toward travel. But just identifying that pull is so valuable. And so people have to work within. People have to go inside, understand your motives, understand your core, both where you're willing to push. And I like how you put that, what's pulling you, and then just jump in the river and see where it takes you,
I'll go one step further too. Sorry to interrupt, because your analogy is so spot on for one of the most defining moments of my life.
Let's hear it.
A gentleman named Steve Weatherford. Steve Weatherford is a Super Bowl champion. He was a kicker for the New York Giants. I don't know if you know Steve or not, or have heard. Mm-mm. Okay, Steve had crossed the bridge from successful athlete, retired, into the entrepreneur world. He'd crossed that bridge about 5 years before I had. So he'd been through this phase of life, which is such a pivotal phase of life for us. And Steve, he was just learning about my journey. He goes, Brooks, I have a challenge for you. He goes, I see you as a boat that is anchored in a river. And the river of life is looking to take you somewhere, but you are resisting against it. Pull your anchor and let the river take you. And my initial reaction, Shawn, I was like, F you, Steve, because he called me out. He poked me right in the chest and he was right on. I was refusing certain things. I was going to force certain things, and I wasn't open to being receptive and receiving that the world might guide me in a place that is better for me than what I know, right? I had dictated everything in my life. I was a professional athlete. I can drive, I can succeed. Sometimes you need to surrender and let the world deliver something to you that you don't know is coming. And Steve was so right. He just called me out at the right time in my life. And from that moment, I literally thought just about pulling an anchor and letting the current take me. And in my life, I have a great friend as well who's a pastor. And he said he was challenged in a similar way by a pastor that he really idolized and really admired and respected. And the pastor said, you're preparing 100% of your sermon, of your speech. I'm going to challenge you to prepare 80% of it and leave 20% for something to find you in that moment. And he goes, but if I have to talk for 30 minutes and I only have, 24 minutes prepared, what do I do for the other 6 if it doesn't come to me? He's like, you just need to have faith that what will find you will find you, and leave space for that magic. Leave space for it to find you. And he said, okay. So he tried it. He just had faith, and he just went. He pulled up his anchor and let the river take him. And he said, those are the best moments. Generally, they're not the ones that he's written, not the ones that he's scripted. They're the ones that find him in the moment. And that's where he finds a lot of his graces or greatness. But he has the courage to proceed without knowing the destination. And I just, from those two incidents, there's so much life lessons that I have pulled from what Steve said to me and then what my friend Joe shared in his journey. And I hope somebody that's listening prepare for the unknown and be excited for it and surrender a little bit to it. Yes, you're still going to have a hand in it. Yes, you're still going to have to drive it. Yeah, but prepare and surrender a little bit as well. And as Shawn says, just jump in the river.
Well, and this is where the art of the start is not a one-time event, and it's not at all limited to startups or even business. In my case, now I'm on this long journey to try and, build this thing as I've described, but I'm open to that inspiration along the way. Like I said, I had plans if I go back to my first little notes on Lovesac, we were going to dominate oversized sex. Again, the word couch never appeared. Fast forward to today, 90% of our sales are couches. Well, when did that shift happen? It wasn't one day. It was a long shift, right? I'm making plans now for the future Lovesac, knowing full well that the river will take us where it needs to take us, as long as we're anxiously engaged in executing on that plan. And that's a weird dichotomy, right? I'm literally saying to you, like, we're going to go execute to this plan, even knowing that where we're going to end up won't be where that plan tells me it's going to end up exactly. It may still be in the same zip code. It may be in the same direction. And by the way, it may not. And that's such a strange place to live, where it's like you're expressing conviction about the future. You and I are both well-versed in saying out loud, right? Manifesting our outcomes.
Vision.
While knowing and having faith in the idea that the ultimate destination may change along the way. Both can be true. Both are useful. And that's my best advice to you is like, be okay with that. I don't know, that flexibility, that both the certainty in manifesting your outcome and somewhere in the back of your mind, the uncertainty of allowing, that river to take you where it's going to take you.
How does one be okay with that? Because I learned that through the lesson I just shared with Steve.
Yeah.
How does somebody listening to this, how do they be okay with that? They're going to drive it. They're going to be a force of nature, because that's what you are. Founders, leaders, CEOs, people that bring and create circumstance in the world, they are forces of nature. They drive certain things into existence. However, we're also asking people to surrender and let the river guide them to where it may. How does one walk those two polar opposite kind of contrasting approaches to whatever they are about to start?
Yeah, my response to that is develop faith in inspiration and intuition. Whether you want to put the onus on God or a higher power, or your some kind of religious faith, or just your own abilities toward intuition. And what I mean by that is, at the right moments, you, as a human on the earth that has these intuitive abilities, and entrepreneurs and starters and doers and leaders, I believe, are more intuitive than most. You will know when to push, and you will know when to allow the pull to take you in a different direction, to utilize your language. And it's like, wow, like that seems so open-ended, Shawn. That seems so wishy-washy. And all I'll say to that is, that's why they pay you the big bucks. Like, what I mean by that is, there is great reward in learning this, I don't know, the art of intuition. You did it with hockey. You followed at 13, you followed your intuition to like go jump over hurdles and to build a squat cage. Like that was, I mean, maybe you saw inspiration in other things. Maybe you heard certain things, but you still followed your own intuition when it comes down to it, to go do those things. And by the way, at some point you probably stopped those exact things and pivoted to other things. You're right. When it fit. So all along you were like a product of your intuition. That's where the big rewards lie. Is like succumbing and allowing that to flow. Otherwise, the safer path is like the 9-to-5 path. And I'm not saying everyone has to go be an entrepreneur. I'm saying even in navigating your own 9-to-5 life, you can follow, let these same principles guide how you raise your children, guide how you navigate your family, guide your career. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go be a founder, right? But you are the CEO of your own life, and CEOs get the most reward when they are somehow in touch with and following their intuition. That's what they're paid for. And that's a wild thing to say, but that's what I believe.
You have teed me up so good, you don't even know. Okay.
Let's hear it.
I was once asked what I thought the greatest success in my life was. It's a question I want to ask you in a moment. What I was once asked, what is the greatest success in your life? And I couldn't answer. Some people might say, I won X, or I achieved Y, or I couldn't answer it. The only answer that I kept coming back to was, I believe my greatest success in my life is that I have followed my gut and my instinct my entire life. Which goes, as you were saying, the last minute of you talking, I just kept thinking about that. That is the greatest success. Everything good in my life has come from following my gut and my instinct. It just led me, and I followed, and I just followed it. It knew these things, right? Our brains, we can confuse ourselves and think one thing or something. Your gut, your heart, just like, it's the pull thing I was talking about. It's going to lead you. Just like follow it. What do you feel has been that you've achieved so much in life, personally, professionally? Like you are on a, for most of us, you are on a pedestal way up there that seems almost in another stratosphere. What do you feel is the greatest success in your life?
Oh, that's easy. I have a close family and kids who I think like me, and we want to hang out together and spend time together, and we find happiness doing that. I mean, I wear this ring, and now I've given one to my daughter. I just sent her off to college 2 days ago, my oldest daughter. And she now wears a ring that has the inscription on the inside, everything else is dust. And look, I love Zach. Here we've been talking about it for an hour. We've been talking about our, professional ambitions and what we're building. And to me, we as humans on the earth are meant to work. We can get biblical about it, by the sweat of your brow. As Adam left the garden, he was expected to, feed his family. I believe in that fundamentally. At the same time, while that's necessary and should be embraced, it's not the point. The point is the humans around us. Whatever that means for anyone listening. In my case, it's my wife and my kids, and others, they might have, other key relationships, but all the other stuff ultimately is dust. But we can find great satisfaction, joy, and distraction, and personal development in the dust. And that's okay too, right? So don't allow, here you and I, as one of the most decorated NHL pro athletes of all time, and some kind of like, quintessential public company CEO, founder, entrepreneur guy, that people put on pedestals sometimes for these reasons, both come back to this idea of having this great intuition and following it. That can be what stops you from starting if you're listening, because you're waiting for that inspiration. And here's the irony in it all. The inspiration comes in the doing.
Yeah.
And the doing leads to more inspiration. So if you're looking for one, there's only one of those that's in your control, because inspiration comes when it comes, how it comes. Have faith in it. Embrace it. Look for it. Listen to it. But the one you can control is the doing. So just do something. Go get started. Right? And it'll find you.
Yeah, movement is life. Just movement is life. For anybody that's listening to this, you guys should have seen the way that Shawn smiled when he talked about his daughter. We've been talking about the company you love, like what we both love. Your company, my company, we've been doing it for an hour. Your biggest smile was when you just mentioned your daughter and she just went off to college. Uh, I love that. I know people that are listening might not have been able to see it, but I saw it. And I feel the same way. I was asked that question, what is my greatest success, prior to having my fiance and our daughter. Yesterday was Father's Day. We were talking about that before we started recording. Like yesterday, I told my fiance, this is the greatest day of the year. She made me feel so seen and loved. And the greatest version of myself I can ever see is to be a loving and devoted husband and father. Nothing that I have done or will ever do in this lifetime will be more powerful and meaningful and fulfilling than being a loving and devoted husband and father. And to see another gentleman speak the same way about his family, and that of all that he has accomplished, his love and close-knit family is the most powerful thing in his life. And that what we are chasing, the dreams that we are also chasing professionally, don't have to come at the cost of that, as long as we are intentional with that is the most important thing. Like I can't wait this summer my fiance and I get married. I cannot wait to say my vows to her. And one of my vows will be, I promise to always build us a great life with you and our family at the center of it. And I think of that every single day. I have wild aspirations for World Playground and what we want to do and how we want to disrupt the travel space. Wild aspirations, bigger than I should probably be allowed to, and you can resonate with this, right? Bigger than I should probably be realistically and sanely allowed to dream. But that's what I want to do. And that's the belief that I have in our product and how it helps people. But none of that, even if all of that comes true, none of that pales in comparison to having a loving relationship with my fiance and a family that we love. Everything else in the world lines up behind that.
Well, look, that's the right belief, and that's the right belief. And the craft and the opportunity to that hockey in your case, or, building this company and continue to lead it in my case, give us to develop skills, leadership skills, personal interaction skills, physical skills, the ability to hear and follow our intuition. All these things are applicable to cultivating a great marriage, cultivating a family, raising kids, if you let them be. And so if somehow you or I or anyone listening was just, airdropped a pallet of money, so then you could just go be a really good dad or mom or something like that, husband, spouse, partner, it's not going to work. We are meant by the sweat of our brow, right, to earn it. And through the sweat comes the skills and abilities and whatnot to do it. And so the two are symbiotic. And that's the reason that I don't diminish the professional side or the ambitious side of all this in the least. It's all one, and we get this chance to participate in these activities, whether it's raising kids or building businesses or, competing in the NHL. All of them participate in our humanity if we let them. And it's all one big exercise. And it's a blessing to have such remarkable forums, like we have, like you and I have had, to develop as humans on the earth. And that's why ambition, I don't shy away from it. You can, it's your ability to be a great father as you are and as you will be, your ability to be a great partner as you will be, is greatly enhanced by your ambitions in life and your experiences that have led you to this point and that you'll continue to have. And that's why I encourage people, go for it. I have this morning mantra that I recite to myself. I talk about it occasionally on this podcast. And one of the lines that sticks out to me is, life is short. None of us make it alive. Sorry. Life is short. None of us make it out alive anyway. So go for it. And I remind myself of this every morning. So
it's powerful.
Thanks for unpacking this with me. It's amazing. Is there any last, like, in the spirit of let me save you 25 years, any last advice you'd give to anyone listening to save them a chunk off their own 25-year journey?
I'll try and be real quick. Be curious. Find something you're obsessed and wild about. Be curious about it. Your conviction, you need to believe that it is possible, even how far it might be. You need to believe that it's possible and it's worth it. And then it comes down to your conviction in it, to stay with it and be better at it every day. Go out the door every single day to be better at it and come back in better at it. Learn. Ask people around you that are better at it. Somebody you admire in the space. Hey, I love this. Anybody that's good at something, usually anybody that's that good at something loves to talk about that thing, right? You don't become an NHL player because you hate playing hockey. You can become an NHL player because you love it. So if you're somebody that's revering somebody that's amazing at something, ask them about it because they love what they do enough to have spent years doing it that I'm sure they're going to be gracious with their time to talk to you about it. Pursue it with everything you have. Know that the route is imperfect. Know that challenge is going to come. Headwind will come. You have a mantra. I have one of the things that we always say is, though we can't predict, like this is not we always say, but this was my own personal one, whatever, but I think of it a lot. Though we can't predict, we can prepare. And when the challenge comes, so too shall we. Right? Like when the challenge arrives, so too shall we, I think is how I wrote it down. Like I can't predict what's going to come. Dang right, I'm going to prepare. And then when that challenge arrives, I'm going to arrive with it. And this time I might conquer it. Next time I might not, but I'm going to be better every single time. And I also want to like rephrase competition for people. I love competition in a public setting. You are now a public company, right? I love competition in a public setting because there's no hiding. Don't be afraid to fail. Like if I got in a fight in hockey and I got beat up in front of 20,000 people, right? Like, but you test yourself and you earn your stripes. And I love testing. We do this in our company. We test ideas in the public forum and best idea wins. Test ideas in the public forum. Like if you have something you're working on, test it. And then we're trying to go at the biggest booking companies in the world. The booking companies, the travel booking companies that take out Super Bowl ads, that have billion-dollar marketing budgets. World Playground wants to compete to add more value to the traveler than the biggest companies in the world, because the traveler for us is our priority. The traveler is not our profit or our product, right? We're taking swings in this industry to disrupt it, to provide more value to travelers than the next. Life is amazing. I could keep going on this. I said it was going to be short. I apologize, Shawn, but life is amazing. I also say this, there's no life that doesn't, this will be the final thing I say. There's no life that doesn't include struggle. Pick the struggle that you want, right? There are so many headwinds and challenges that we're facing with World Playground. We're trying to disrupt an industry, never profit off a traveler, remove all commissions, remove all markups, which has been profit for every other company. There are companies that are trying to squash us. There are companies with billion-dollar marketing budgets. Everything is a challenge, but I sign up for this challenge. This is the challenge that I want. There is no life, right? So I'm entering the ring against giants.
That's right.
If I don't enter the ring, now I have no impact. Now maybe I'm not able to earn for my family. Maybe I'm not able to help other families experience amazing memories that they otherwise wouldn't have. There's struggle over there. There's struggle here. Pick the one that you want, but there is no life without struggle and hardship. And I always say this, our life is not easy. It is filled with challenge, but it's a challenge that we accept. My fiance and I, we accept them, we select them, and we pursue them with everything we have, hand in hand. And that is just so fun. Doesn't mean we always win, but man, do we feel alive.
I love it. I love it. Well said. Look, pick the struggles that you want, because if you don't, life will pick them for you. Often those look worse. So look, everyone, please be sure to check out everything Brooks is up to by following him on X and Instagram at Brooks Laich. That's Laich. Check out worldplayground.co, their Instagram as well. I will only book my travel on World Playground from here on out. You should too. They'll save you a ton of money. Wow, what a vision. Anything else we should keep an eye on from you in 2026?
Yeah, we're trying to go everywhere with World Playground. So what anybody that isn't familiar with our company, any travel product you book online, a hotel, cruise, whatever it may be, it generally has almost a 20% commission attached to it. And our booking platform removes all commissions from travel products. Travelers don't know this, but you're paying either a platform or an agency commission on the hotel room that you book online. Our platform, our mission is to be the best in the world at connecting a traveler to their next unforgettable memory. That's our mission. We want to connect Shawn and his family with their next unforgettable memory. So we are a booking platform, but really we're a memories company. If we can be a small part of the best memories of you and your family's lives, that's a very fulfilling mission for us. So our platform removes every commission, every markup, every possible single cent, unnecessary cent of the travel cost. So we provide you just with the pricing we receive on travel products, and we receive exclusive unpublished fares that the public does not. And we provide that to everybody in the world for free. We have 2.2 million hotels. We have 13 cruise lines, about to be 17. We're going to have pretty soon 400 airlines on our website. We bring the world back within reach because we don't add any commission to a travel product, and we never will. We want you to have the memories with the people you love around the world, and we want to make that as possible as we can for you. So worldplayground.co, it's our website, free for everybody to use.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much to the Saskatchewan Stallion, the adventure architect, the Just Start juggernaut of sports and business himself, Brooks Laich. Thank you.
Those, dude, I'm gonna use those in my Instagram bio from now on. Thank you, Shawn. This has been so much fun. I appreciate you and appreciate what you do.
And for anyone listening, by the way, remember, if you've been waiting to start, stop waiting for certainty, start building momentum. You don't have to be the best to begin. You just have to be the best at getting better, as Brooks says. So just do it. Learn as you go. It just might save you a chunk off your own 25-year journey.
Once a year to take my friends away should not be the budget for your bike across America.
TikTok has become an aggregator for some of the dumbest human actions.
When I won that million, I was $2 million in debt, barely hanging on.